The stock market is now down 21%.
At one point, the market fell as if down a well.
Because we're now down 43%.
In the midst of the greatest economic crisis in modern history, as major Wall Street institutions were dropping like flies.
We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
A secret, high-tech Wall Street project used to generate millions in the financial markets was abruptly shut down. This secret project was only available to a select few authorized Wall Street insiders. With the shocking collapse of the investment bank Bear Stearns, this secret insider money-making project permanently went dark. Or so Wall Street thought. One former Wall Street insider with first-hand knowledge of this money-making secret has been on a lifelong mission to resurrect the secret behind this millionaire-making investment tool. Rebuilding this Wall Street secret from the ground up, he has vowed to release the shocking details of this secretive Wall Street project to everyday Americans like you. This is his story.
That can help you pinpoint huge moves in the stock market before they happen, giving you the chance to walk away with an average of $16,209 every week. The tool it's based on is so powerful that it helped me personally make my fund over $8 million in a few short years. I'll reveal everything in just a moment, but for now, all you need to know is that this box is so easy to use. All you have to do is connect the black box to your computer, open the program, wait for the broadcast, then make your move.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Novavax.
Once you're notified of the information, you're in position to place one simple trade, then cash out a few days later with a potential fortune. I'm talking about as much as $7,484 in 15 days. $16,408 in 7 days, and even $31,026 in 9 days. Even though most people don't know about the origins of this box, its history dates back to the early 2000s, when my hedge fund was working on a secret project with Wall Street giant Bear Stearns. The top echelon of the hedge fund industry used a small black box, not so different in appearance from the box I am holding right now. Since I was one of them, I had one on my desk too. And every week, the box would send me an urgent alert, like the one you just heard, telling me about what I call front trades, or big market moves that allow big players on Wall Street to spot these big winners, often before everyday folks like you. These front trades are 100% legal and allowed me to find some of the most overlooked opportunities in the market. Pretty soon, I was using this black box to generate some of the most lucrative trades at my hedge fund. But when Bear Stearns collapsed in 2008, the entire project collapsed, and the tool that helped me personally make over $8 million was erased from history. That is, until now. Today, I am making the most important announcement of my career. You see, this particular tool was never made available outside the big Wall Street banks. If you were not an insider like myself, you were out of luck, and that really gave Wall Street an unfair advantage over the little guy. Because, as TheStreet.com says, the original black box can be a major advantage to traders trying to cash in on sudden price movement in a stock. That rigged game changes today, because as a leading analyst of the Black Box project, I made it my life mission to resurrect the secret behind the most powerful investing tool in history, and after a revolutionary decade-long project, I am officially announcing the return of the Black Box, designed specifically for everyday folks like you. I'll even give away a limited number of black boxes today. Yes, I'll send you your very own black box by certified mail. Just keep in mind, after I left the hedge fund, I was not allowed to take any information about the black box with me, including its incredible track record. It was all proprietary data, never to be released to what Wall Street insiders call unauthorized persons. So, because my new and improved black box has never been made public before, all the trade examples I'll mention today are necessarily drawn from how this could have performed by analyzing historical data. And with new technological advancements, this tool is so powerful, I am calling it the income box. And as you're about to see, the income box strategy could help you pocket $16,209 every 7 days. That equates to $842,868 a year. And when you see how easy it is to use, you'll never invest the same way again. For example, take a look at what happened to multi-billion-dollar corporation Novavax this past January. For the 2 years prior, Novavax was plummeting in stock price due to a failed FDA test for their RSV vaccine. This one promising biotech company lost their best product, and they weren't making any money. Everyone thought this stock was headed for bankruptcy, except the income box, which gave the buy signal for January 9th. Take a look. That sound you just heard meant big players on Wall Street were trying to get in before everyday folks on an upcoming move in Novavax. Now, keep in mind, the day the income box signaled the buy alert, there wasn't any news regarding Novavax. There was nothing out of the ordinary, and there weren't any press releases scheduled. But the income box calculated that someone was trying to beat everyday investors on an upcoming big move. And just 1 day after the income box signaled the alert, an investment banking company named B. Riley made an eye-popping upgrade on Novavax. Simply put, the stock exploded. Investors could have seen a 63% return in a single day thanks to the income box. Most people missed that big move. They were beat because they couldn't spot the front trade. And by the time they heard the news, it was already too late to make the biggest profits, because this announcement completely surprised investors. No one was supposed to know B. Riley was about to upgrade the stock. But had you used my income box strategy, you would have known something big was about to happen, and you could have gotten in before the report was released, allowing you to capture a 1-day gain of 63% on a multi-billion-dollar healthcare company, simply by purchasing their regular stock. Imagine investing $5,000 and walking away with $8,167 in less than 24 hours, without risking your money in dangerous options. That's the power of the income box strategy. It measures when hedge funds have just placed massive front trades on stocks, trying to beat everyday investors and get in before big moves in the market. As I'll explain in a moment, these front trades are different from regular trades. They're purposefully downplayed to the public so nobody knows what's really happening. But by simply piggybacking them, you can profit to the tune of $8,167, $14,711, even $44,850. And it's so easy. All you have to do is place a simple trade when you get my alert and cash out a few weeks later. It's the only way I know for mom and pop investors to turn the tables on Wall Street and get ahead of big, unexpected moves before they happen. For example, take a look at what happened on October 27th. That's when the income box gave the buy signal on Whiting Petroleum.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Whiting Petroleum Corp.
Nothing was happening that day. There weren't any crazy news regarding Whiting. No one was expecting anything. In fact, this multi-billion-dollar oil titan was in a 3-year slump ever since OPEC ramped up production in the Middle East, causing the price of oil to plummet. And with Whiting's enormous debt load, it seemed like this oil company was on its last legs. From the news, it looked like everyone was selling the shares. However, the income box had a different opinion, and on October 23rd, the buy signal flashed. Take a look. That meant that someone on Wall Street was trying to get in front of everyday folks like you. Then, a few days later, on October 25th, Whiting Petroleum surprised investors by announcing a 78% increase in production in their Denver Basin drilling region. Had you acted when the income box gave me the alert, you could have walked away with $7,500 in just 2 weeks, just by purchasing regular stock. Again, most regular investors missed the big movement from that trade. There was no way for you to know that their production numbers were so high, and if you had waited for the news, you would have missed out on this profit. But it was like the income box strategy could pinpoint something was going to happen, And had you just waited for the buy signal and placed one simple trade, you could have made a small fortune in just a few short days, without risking your money in options, futures, or anything extra risky. It's that easy. You're in, you're out, you're paid. Nobody will ever take what's yours again. That's how I personally made my fund $8 million from the original black box. In fact, this tool is so powerful and so reliable that it was even investigated by the SEC on multiple occasions. After authorities noticed bigwigs on Wall Street were making millions following this box, they thought maybe there was something fishy going on. Just like John from A.B. Watley, who used a similar box to make $650,000, or Warren, who generated $125,000 in gross profits using a similar box, and Ralph from Citigroup, who made over $600,000. But after months of investigation, they concluded that the system was 100% legal. So this is not only 100% legal, but it could also be the easiest money-making strategy you've ever seen. For example, look what happened to a company called Harvard Bioscience. This publicly traded company was created by Harvard Medical School and backed by Harvard's $35 billion endowment. Harvard Bioscience distributes products in over 100 countries around the world. Yet, despite their prestigious alma mater, Harvard Bioscience was in the red each quarter, and since 2015 they had lost over 60% of their value. Investors were selling shares left and right. But despite all of the downward pressure, the income box flashed the buy signal on December 26th, which meant someone was trying to take a position before a big market move.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Harvard Bioscience Incorporated.
Just a few weeks later, Harvard Bioscience announced the takeover of Data Sciences International. The impact was extraordinary, and management expected an immediate $24.5 million boost to their revenue. Had you gotten in on December 26th when the income box flashed the buy signal, you could have pocketed $7,698 in just a few weeks. Once again, those who placed those trades walked away with a fortune, while everyday folks were left with nothing. Because unless you worked for Harvard Bioscience, you would have had no idea that this news was coming. That's where the income box strategy comes in. All you had to do for the chance to profit was wait for the buy signal, purchase regular shares, then cash out a few days later. Just check out this chart from Valiant Pharmaceuticals.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Valiant Pharmaceuticals International,
one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Had you used the income box, you could have turned a modest $5,000 investment into $8,582, simply by placing a bet on November 16th and cashing out a few weeks later. That's a 72% return from one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Same thing for Weed Inc., the first publicly traded marijuana company in the U.S.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Weed Incorporated.
You could have placed a $5,000 bet on December 19th when the income box signaled the buy, and you could have walked away with $27,941 on January 9th. That's a 459% return, just by receiving a buy alert, placing one simple trade, then cashing out a few weeks later. Do you now see how powerful this strategy is? Do you see why hedge funds and the big banks on Wall Street never wanted it to leave their offices? It's really not fair that this tool was unknown to everyday folks like you for so long, because this strategy allows you to pocket an average of $16,209 every 7 days. That equates to $842,868 a year, enough money to finally buy that beach home in Florida, or get that new Corvette convertible that's always caught your eye, or pay off all your debts. But since these are short-term plays, you don't tie up your money in the market long-term, which means you not only have the chance to make huge capital gains, you're also cutting your risk. Not to mention you're simply buying regular shares instead of risking your money with dangerous options. That's my favorite part about this strategy. You can see huge gains simply by buying regular stock. Like all investments, these recommendations may not all be winners, and they do carry risk. but the risk is much smaller than if you were to purchase options that can easily lose 100% of their value. And of course it depends on how much you put in. But that means you can take advantage of this strategy for under $50. Isn't that incredible? And let me tell you this, if you've missed out on these big moves in the past, it's not your fault. Most people are in the dark when it comes to these huge front trades. That's because they don't typically happen in the open market. Not the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or even OTC markets. As you can probably imagine, these people don't want anyone to know they're making big moves. That's why these trades happen in something called dark pools. I'll explain more about dark pools in a minute, but without the income box strategy, it's impossible for the little guy to know when these trades happen, and you're unlikely to catch the big, unexpected moves that happen in the weeks following the front trade. What I mean is, you only know about a big stock market move after it already takes place. And at that rate, you'll never make money if you're always a step behind. That's why my income box has completely revolutionized the investing game. This is a brand new way of making money, where you can get in before the big stock moves, not after all of the insiders have made their money by getting in before you. To my knowledge, this is the only way for mom and pop investors to get ahead of Wall Street, because I'm sure you've always suspected it, but it's easy to forget that the Wall Street game is rigged against people like you. Look, in the hedge fund community, the 1% of the 1% are closely knit. Where corporate executives and billion-dollar money managers smooth over vintage wine in prestigious clubs, anything is talked about in a place where cell phones are prohibited, and Ferraris are rented out gratis for members. Oftentimes, information that hasn't reached the public slips. Because, let's be honest, even if you've got $1 billion to deploy, a few drinks still gets people talking, and information regarding analyst upgrades, takeover deals, new product releases, even news regarding mergers and acquisition tend to flow freely. And even though this information is secret, hedge funds often use it to their advantage. And they try to get in front of the market by placing these front trades, profiting from events that are seemingly unknown to the average investor. Because unless you're in the inner circle, you'll miss making money on those events. Put simply, hardworking Americans like you have no chance of making real profits in the stock market. Does that seem fair to you? Of course not. But today, I'm going to reveal how my income box finally levels the playing field against the Wall Street elite. As I mentioned before, my name is Zachary Scheit. I spent my career as a multi-million-dollar hedge fund manager in Atlanta, where I saw the ins and outs of huge money flows to the tune of billions. And it was at that hedge fund where I saw how the system was rigged for the wealthy elite. It all started in the year 2000, when the internet was rapidly expanding. And my hedge fund, along with Bear Stearns, was testing a device that would revolutionize the investing game for the ultra-wealthy. It was called the Squawk Box. Squawk boxes are devices that broadcast within a securities firm institutional orders to buy and sell large blocks of securities. They also send exclusive information from leading analysts across every industry. And every week, the Squawk Box would send me information which I could use to determine where huge trades were being made. That's not easy to do. As you can probably imagine, the big dogs on Wall Street do not place trades like you and me. They're not playing with thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're playing with millions and even billions in each single trade. Because of their massive size, these kinds of trades are not placed on your typical exchange, such as the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. These types of trades are often placed on a different market, in a place called a dark pool. Dark pools are a series of special exchanges and software that institutions and hedge funds build for low transparency. The thing is, hardly anyone knows the inner workings of dark pools, and it's a place where hedge funds can place their trades for the global elite. As the New York Times reported, while dark trading can benefit some insiders, it may cost the general public as a whole. Now, does that sound fair to you? That's what made the Squawk Box so powerful. It explicitly told us when those trades were happening, so we knew exactly how the so-called smart money was betting their money. And that allowed people to get in trades before big, unexpected moves. and walk away with a fortune. That's why the New York Times reported, order information transmitted over the squawk boxes was sensitive. Yes, it was sensitive, because it virtually guaranteed you'd walk away with easy money. Because when you follow these trades, you can make a fortune at lightning speed. Just look at what happened to Atara Biotherapeutics this past December. On December 8th, the income box flashed the buy signal.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Atara Biotherapeutics Incorporated.
But at that time, nothing was happening to this multi-billion-dollar biotech company. In fact, Atara Biotherapeutics was behind schedule on their CAR-T cancer drug, and it looked like other pharma giants had already conquered that niche. From publicly available information, this company looked like a certified sell. However, the income box signaled some big player on Wall Street had just made a huge front trade. And on December 29th, just a few weeks later, Atara announced that the FDA gave them the green light for Phase 3 testing. Shares skyrocketed, and unless you worked for Atara or the FDA, you would have had no idea this announcement was coming, and you wouldn't have been able to get in front of the movement. But if you had used the income box strategy, you would have walked away with $14,711 a few weeks later. Again, using this strategy, all you had to do was receive the buy alert, place one simple trade, then score a quick 194% gain just a few weeks later, and just by purchasing regular shares. That's incredible, isn't it? Here's another example from my research. On January 3rd, the income box gave the buy signal on a U.S. nuclear corp.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on U.S. Nuclear Corp.
This Los Angeles-based nuclear company is a worldwide leader in radiation detection. But when the income box signaled the buy on January 3rd, nothing out of the ordinary was happening for this company. There were no earnings reports, no big press releases scheduled, nothing. But later that month, a report was released that U.S. Nuclear Corp was partnering with fusion power leader to become a supplier in the $10 billion radioisotope market. Shares went skyrocketing, and had you bought shares before the event, you would have made $44,850 in less than a month. That's a 797% return just by purchasing regular stock. It's so easy. Wait for the alert, place one simple trade, then profit. Imagine making more than 40 grand in just a month. Do that once a month and you're looking at an extra annual income of more than $500,000. And while that would be an exceptional year, imagine just making half of that. How would an extra $250,000 change your life? Would you get a new Mercedes or a new boat? It's scary how much the income box strategy could help you make. Here's another example. Just after Christmas, the income box signaled that it was time to buy on December 26th. It said that Ares Management, one of the largest private equity firms in the world, was a screaming buy.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Ares Management LP.
But the thing is, for the past year, this multi-billion-dollar firm had actually lost 20% of their value, even though the stock market had been crushing record after record. It looked like this company was going nowhere. But the income box signaled some players on Wall Street were trying to legally get in front of big market move. And on January 4th, Ares Management announced a massive $139 million sale of a Florida retirement community. Paired with the newly implemented tax bill, shares exploded, giving you the chance to make $6,641 in just a few weeks from a company with $100 billion under management. Again, all you had to do was use the income box strategy, place one simple trade, and cash out with a potential fortune just a few weeks later. Take a look at what happened on February 8th, 2017. That's when the income box pinpointed Zion Oil and Gas as a buy.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Zion Oil and Gas Incorporated.
Just 5 days later, on February 13th, Zion Oil and Gas made an announcement that they had recently made a huge oil discovery. Their market cap nearly doubled, giving you the chance to make $10,852 in just 6 days. Imagine if you have that kind of extra weekly income. That's enough for a new mortgage payment with just a week's worth of work. Imagine buying a stock and never having to worry about if you've bought at the wrong time. Remember the last time you bought a stock that you thought was a good idea? You did your due diligence and had every reason to believe this stock was going to go higher. And yet, shares dropped by 20% or more just a few days later. We've all been through that. It's infuriating. Do you frequently wonder if you've purchased the stock at the wrong time? Well, now you no longer have to worry about that. My income box strategy helps you see when the right time to buy is. You don't have to worry about catching the top of the market or missing big moves that happen out of the blue. Instead of consistently being beat by Wall Street insiders, the little guy finally has a chance to profit from these big one-day moves. Moves that have been making insiders rich for years. You see, we've all suspected that Wall Street was rigged against everyday investors. But it's worse than we thought. I'm sure you've seen stories about billionaire Stephen A. Cohen, whose hedge fund made their notorious money on short-term plays, such as when Cohen's firm decided to sell their Dell shares shortly before an earnings miss. Cohen probably knew something most investors didn't know, and was able to save his firm $1.7 million from seemingly surprising earnings miss. Or I'm sure you saw when billionaire Leon Cooperman made $4 million placing trades before Atlas Pipeline Partners announced the sale of a natural gas plant for $682 million. Cooperman was one of Atlas's biggest shareholders and had frequent meetings with executives, and was still able to profit from an event that no one was supposed to know was coming. Does that seem fair that Cooperman was able to spot this movement before you? Absolutely not. And now hedge funds are getting away with even more. A recent Harvard Law School report showed that hedge funds are now getting information from political lobbyists. By hiring lobbyists, hedge fund managers can gain access to information about ongoing or impending government actions. Harvard's research even included this tidbit. As an example, consider the case of USG Corp., a building material company facing an estimated $5.5 billion in asbestos-related lawsuits. On November 15th, the company's stock was traded at 200% the normal volume and delivered an abnormal return of 5%, yet no company-specific news was delivered that day. The following day, the Senate Majority Leader announced a plan to create a $140 billion bailout fund to relieve companies such as USG, of their asbestos liabilities. In conclusion, the Harvard Research Report stated, "It appears that the market reacted before the public announcement." Doesn't that make you sick? We all knew that hedge fund managers had the upper hand, but this is getting out of hand. Today, the rigged game ends. Look, they're not going to stop beating everyday folks like you to these plays. All you can do is beat them at their own game by using the income box strategy. The only way to catch these big unexpected moves is by following hedge funds and their activity in dark pools. Think about it. If there's no news about a specific company, and hedge funds are placing unusually large bets, it's very likely that they know something we don't, right? It's very likely that they're trying to get in front of the market move. That's what the income box sets out to determine. It uses a proprietary algorithm to track big front trades placed by hedge funds in real time. So, let me pull back the curtain and show you what's actually behind the income box strategy. Take the Whiting Petroleum example from October 23rd. See that big spike? That's the algorithm picking up on big money flows. Put simply, it measures how much money is flowing in and out of the stock by observing the trades in each stock. And when the algorithm spikes, that means hedge funds are potentially placing big money trades. In the case of Whiting Petroleum, for example, when the income box algorithm indicated it was time to make a move, there was $1,977,075,240 flowing into that stock. To put that into perspective, that's 13 times higher than the normal amount of money that flows into that stock on a typical day. Here's the formula behind the spike. It measures the volume-weighted average of accumulation and distribution over the last 20 days. That's how it picks up when a front trade is happening. Now don't let the complexity scare you. The tools behind the income box do all of the calculations. All you need to know is this. When the income box sees big money flow to a certain degree, it means that hedge funds or someone in the know is trying to get in front of big market moves. And its calculations will indicate that a front trade has been placed. Just like what happened in Whiting Petroleum, the algorithm would have picked up on investors making their move. And I would have known a full 15 days ahead of time to get in before the profit explosion, giving you the chance to make a quick 50% profit from investors trying to rig the game. Isn't that incredible? The beauty of the income box strategy is that it calculates everything for you. You don't have to look at screens or those scary looking indicators that don't work half the time. You can use my income box strategy to determine when to make a trade, because that means hedge funds are making heavy bets, which can notify you about big stock market moves before they happen. Just take a look at what happened to Crown Bouse Capital. On January 3rd, there was no significant news regarding Crown Bouse Capital, but the algorithm behind the income box said that hedge funds were taking a potential stake.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Crown Bouse Capital Corp.
Simply put, all this unusual money flow indicated someone was trying to profit from a big, unexpected move. In fact, the money flow was 44 times higher during this time. On January 16th, it was announced that Crown Bouse acquired a military-grade cryptographic secure online communication system in order to revolutionize and bring military-grade blockchain cybersecurity to the everyday consumer. Now, did someone know that this announcement was coming? Of course they did. The income box picked up massive money flowing into the stock right before the announcement. And had you gotten in when the income box identified those front trades, you could have walked away with $34,950 in just 2 weeks. Do you now see how the income box strategy can help you level the playing field? You have the chance to get in before big unexpected news, and you can walk away with a fortune in a matter of days. Just look at what happened in Recall Studios this past January. On January 10th, there was nothing going on in Recall Studios. No press releases, nothing. But the algorithm behind the income box picked up unusual activity.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Recall Studios Incorporated.
The money flow was over 53 times higher. The income box signaled potential hedge funds were making huge trades. Just 2 weeks later, a press release was made that stated Recall Studios is launching a special product in the virtual reality sphere. The idea behind this product is to allow anyone, anywhere, to create their own immersive and interactive virtual reality experience without the need for specialized hardware. Imagine being able to create and interact in your own dream world. Investors went nuts, and shares of Recall skyrocketed 1,133%, enough for you to turn $5,000 into $61,642 in just 2 weeks. That's enough to buy a brand new luxury car from just one trade. Imagine having the car of your dreams, the type of car the valet wants to leave parked out front of the hotel, just by making one simple trade, just by purchasing regular shares. But it wasn't just Recall Studios. On December 8th, there was no news regarding Petrolia Energy Corp. But the income box picked up potential hedge fund activity, and that meant the stock was ready to explode. Check it out.
Front trade alert. Initiate buying sequence on Petrolia Energy Corp.
On December 18th, Petrolia announced that they had finalized a contract with Newbridge Securities Corp., who specializes in advising on mergers and acquisitions. Whoever was buying before the announcement would have made out like a bandit. Had you placed a simple bet of $5,000 on Petrolia, you could have made $29,375 on the announcement in a little more than a week. Incredible, right? And making this money would have been easy, because all you had to do was wait for the information that the income box picked up on, place one simple trade, and then cash out a few days later. And like I mentioned before, there is no reason to risk your money in long-term plays. You're in, you're out, and you're paid. The hedge funds have had the advantage for generations, but the rigged game changes today. Take a look.
Front trade alert, initiate buying sequence.
The income box just indicated movement on a company in the discretionary sector. That means the system has detected a massive front trade. It's time you get in before everyone else. There's no time to waste. Step 1. Every week I will be using my income box to identify dark pool trades and unusual hedge fund activity across the U.S. market. Step 2. As soon as my system indicates lucrative activity, I'll do my own analysis of the company and I'll find the one that could hand you the biggest gain. Step 3. Finally, I'll send you an email with exact instructions on how to profit, the exact setup, what trade to make, and when to take profits. Question: if this system is so profitable, why don't you keep it for yourself? Answer: I already made $8 million using this strategy. Now I want to share that secret. I've already made more than enough money to support myself using this strategy. And now I want to help ordinary folks who don't have access to the wealth-building strategies of the global elite. It always irked me that the machine was rigged to make the rich get richer. And after my kids were born, I've got 7, I saw what life was really about. Being happy, enjoying time with my family, and doing something more fulfilling than helping the rich get richer. That's why I'm on a mission to make the income box available to everyday folks like you. Imagine, what would you do with an extra $16,209 a week? Maybe you would buy a new vacation home in Florida, or buy the fishing boat you've always wanted. Maybe you would just pay off your debts and have enough to buy those grandkids nicer presents. A new trade recommendation every week. My income box is always scanning the market for hedge fund activity, and every week I'll send you an email with my most pressing research. By next week, you could have enough money to pay for your entire subscription. Like I showed you earlier, starting with just $500, you could have placed a bet on Recall Studios and walked away with $6,164 in just 2 weeks. Or you could have placed a $500 bet on U.S. Nuclear Corp and walked away with $4,485. Or $34,950 from Crown Baus Capital. In each one of those trades, a single $500 bet would have made you enough money to pay for your annual fee. And remember, the income box has the potential to hand you an average profit of $16,209 every week. I am going to lower the cost of admission to $2,000. That's a full $1,000 off the already incredible publishing price of $3,000. I'd also like to give you a special profit guarantee. You see, I've shown you the power of the income box and how easy it is to use. I want to make sure you are completely satisfied with my strategy. Right now, I'm going to say this. If you don't get the opportunity to double your money on my recommendations at least 10 times over the next year, I'll send you a check worth $3,000. That's correct. If my recommendations don't deliver the opportunity to double your money at least 10 times in the upcoming year, simply call our Baltimore-based customer care team and they will give you a $3,000 credit you can use towards another year of our service. That's how confident I am in the income box. It's the only way to catch big market moves that only hedge funds could possibly know about. Like I showed you today, you could have earned $44,850 on U.S. Nuclear Corp in 13 days, $29,375 on Petrolia Energy in 7 days, $7,484 on Whiting Petroleum in 11 days, $10,852 on Zion Oil and Gas in 6 days, $27,941 on Weed Inc. in 21 days, $16,408 on EVO Inc. in 7 days, $8,167 on Novavax in 1 day. You've seen the charts. You've seen the data. The proof that hedge funds are consistently beating you to the big market moves.